an entrepreneurial profile with Leann Proud. I'm really excited to share this one with you today. Whether you're just starting out or you're in the middle of it or you're getting ready to up level your business, learning from others is like the best lab ever. Why reinvent the wheel? Today we will have with us, like I said, Leann Proud on for a quick fireside chat, a little bit of advice. So let's do it and let's go. Good morning, everyone. Paula Mattisonsierra, Power Marketing SF, and the host of the show. So this morning, I have with me, very proud to have with me, Leann Proud, founder and uh, principal consultant at Proud PR Consulting. Good morning, my dear. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you so much for having me this morning. Feel
I'm
very honored. Very honored to be here. Thank you.
Listen, it's I remember we went on our hike and I was like, I'm sorry, I was a little bit, there was like some, little fangirling a little bit. I'm like, I just met her. I'm like, I need to get to know her more. Is she comfortable talking to me? I'm just a little, a little marketer. But when you know the people have been through stuff and they're still here and they're still doing it
Yeah.
successfully, you just want to hear more. So thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your journey, the challenges. Because, I mean, honestly, sometimes people look at entrepreneurs, even the massively successful ones, as though there are no challenges and it magically
Mhm.
happened. Right? Because it magically
Yeah.
happened for you too, right, Leanne?
It did. And it is about resilience. I think you're right, right? We're still here. It
So,
did. I think that if somebody asked me in my early career that I would be, doing this, I would have laughed.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
It's,
fell
and
into.
actually, one of the things, and I didn't even add this to, but I'm going to throw it out as like a last minute like ask, but going through COVID, I know that was a big thing. We saw that there's some entrepreneurs that didn't fare well during this period,
Mhm.
and not necessarily because their industry might have been compromised, but just the headspace. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, so human resources, I think it was a big stage for the entire industry in human resources. A lot of times human resources is forgotten or we're overhead, and in HR, it was all hands on deck. It was
Mm,
the HR teams in all of those companies, big or small, that was able to basically maneuver the daily changes in law. It was the HR teams who got everybody out of the offices and working at home. It was the HR
mm.
teams and all of those companies who put together work from home policies
Oh
and
wow, yeah,
trained managers on how to keep their team engaged while they were working from home. It was it sounds terrible to say this, but COVID was very good to us.
yeah,
It was very
yeah.
good to us.
I mean,
Um,
developing some muscles that weren't not, well, who would have planned for these muscles anyway,
right.
right?
Right, and from an entrepreneur standpoint, we were like I said, it was very good to us. We had a lot of work. I took a lot of calls with smaller companies that just needed some guidance, and I have a very good network that was like, "I just have a client that needs to pick your brain," and I was happy to do that, right? Like, that was very rewarding from a perspective of being able to share the wealth of knowledge that we had to make sure that somebody else can maneuver it correctly.
Yeah.
We knew it was real.
Yeah.
We had a client that in March, we had just barely locked down. And in March, they had 7 people who tested positive, one who had died, and
Mm.
20 others who had not tested yet. And that's when we knew it was real. So we were from the frying pan into the fire, very early stage.
Well, let me ask you, what was your motivation for starting this business? Because when you started this business, it was primarily the office manager position, right? And so you weathered through the growth of this industry, not just,
Yeah.
muscling up for COVID, but What motivated you to start this? And what challenges did you face early
Yeah.
on?
So I've been in human resources for the majority of my career. And I was actually at another firm, Greeno Consulting Group, for 17 years as their HR person and as a consultant. And I brought it to the CEO and founder of the company. His name is Mark, and said, hey, they were a finance and accounting firm. And so I said, hey, let's really like make a go for of this, right? Like, let's really build a human resource practice. And he was gracious enough and trusted me enough to go do it. And so I did it for them. Um, and then I made the decision to move out on my own. And so I did it for me
Yeah, yeah.
with, PHR consulting. So I didn't put my name on the door and brand it that way until I had some mentors really shape me going off on my own. And so through provisors and through a huge network of
Well, share with us who Provisors is, by the way, for those who aren't familiar. I don't know why you don't know who Provisors is. I'm just gonna say, if
So
you don't know, I have a networking group that you're with, but
yeah, for
please
sure.
share who they
I,
are.
I think that networking is monumental when you're going to go out on your own and do this. And so Provisors is a networking association that only has professionals and experts in their field um, in, and there are individual groups. So I think they're in about 10 different states now. I think there's 15 groups that are in San Francisco alone. There's San Jose, San Mateo, East Bay, Walnut Creek. But basically, you get associated with a particular group. I'm with SF4, so a little shout out to all my
And I'm with
SF4
SF6. Hey,
groupies.
everyone.
um, but the whole foundation of Provisors is know, like, trust, refer. And so what that really means is you get to know your colleagues in this networking group. You start to understand their business, you trust them in their expertise in their field, and then you can refer and exchange commerce. And so that's what that's all about. So
Nice.
when I went out on my own, I had a huge network that really helped me get through things. Everything from trademark attorney to website presence and a mentor, Mary O'Hara Devereaux.
Well,
I'll give her a little shout out to just sitting me down and talking to me like with no nonsense um, level of push, right? Like, well, why are you doing it that way? That doesn't seem compelling to me. What about this? So having those people that you can trust and really lean on them to help shape and guide you when you go out on your own and when you go, even if you're rebranding, right? Like you've been out there for a few years, but now you're going to rebrand. Have that layer that you can lean on, and mentors are huge.
I love that. I love that. What's setbacks? Because I'm like, with that journey, I'm sure there were some setbacks and even failures. On your road to becoming an entrepreneur. Well, once you started, the day you started, you're officially an entrepreneur. But on that journey, anything that you care to share with us?
Oh, yeah. I mean, going out on your own is a little scary. And then when you realize that you have other people that are relying on you for their livelihood, it, multiplies that tenfold. So there are definitely, moments of what am I doing and why am I doing this? And certainly bumps and bruises along the way of silly mistakes. I would never tell a client to do the things that I did. I tell my clients to stay away from some of the mistakes that we made. But I was just joking with you earlier, right? Like the mechanic who doesn't fix their own car. I was not walking my talk, right? I wasn't taking my own advice that I share with clients all the time. So having my eyes wide open and adjusting as I go. Every year there's something new that we learn, whether it's accounting and finance and having somebody that you can trust to completely just hand your books over to. It is not my forte. I don't want to do it. I'm terrible at bookkeeping. I don't even want to do an expense report. Like it's not who I am.
Yeah.
So finding somebody that you can completely trust,
Yeah.
that you can just go, here you go,
Here you
right?
go.
Like they have full access to everything.
Yeah.
Again, that's kind of a trust walk. And that trust walk is with individuals, again, that you're going to lean in on.
Yeah.
Um, the
Don't you
greatest,
find though that when you're in the trenches, mistakes happen. It's not like a perfect journey, right? Because of
yes,
course you have your plan, but the plan only takes you so far to actuality because you're not like a mind reader, right? You can't
that's right.
determine the future and things, but having a plan, um, to me is like an excellent way of like mitigating some of that, right?
Yeah.
Did you have a plan at any point? As
So,
well, or because some people don't. Some people are just fantastically intuitive and
yeah,
are just doing it, you know?
I'm I'm smiling because I'm trying not to laugh. So my brilliant plan was to, you know, by the grace of God, I feel incredibly blessed, right? So my brilliant plan was to just do it. Because if I overthought
That
it,
is a plan.
if I overthink things, if I have to be too planned or too prepared, it stifles me and it makes me incredibly nervous. And then I um, can't function.
You can't
I
right.
think one of my things is that as an HR consultant, I'm always in crisis mode, crisis management, fire drill Fridays. You have to find the gray area in labor law. So you're thinking outside of the box. And so all of that is who I am. I can shoot from the hip. And that's the way I kind of tackled the company is like, let's shoot from the hip. It's going to happen organically. And, the field of dreams, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, yeah,
And so that was my plan. My business plan is an inside joke. I had no business plan. But what I did decide that I was going to do is that I was only going to have senior human resource consultants because
oh,
I had determined that I already grew teams. I mentored, I trained, I did all kinds of stuff. I supervised, and it took more and more and more time away from my true joy, which is consulting and helping clients. And so that was the big defining moment that I really wanted to go out on my own was
yeah,
so that I can get back to the core of who I am and what makes me happy, and that's consulting.
yeah,
And so to do that and maintain that for me, I only did senior level consultants. And so that means that it doesn't matter if you have Tiffany or Joseph or Beck or Brianna or whoever is on our team, Rose, Greg, a variety of people kind of circulate in and out based on what's going on in our bandwidth and our clients.
yeah,
But whoever you have, you know that they're going to be this level of senior expertise. And I want people on my team who fill in the gaps of what I don't have
yeah,
or things that I did when I was in my younger part of my career that I shouldn't be doing anymore, that I'm not great at doing anymore because through the evolution of who you are, you need to honor who you are
yeah,
and embrace the expertise inside of you. And I think that was the biggest challenge that I had because I don't want to ever sit down and say, "Oh yeah, I'm the expert. Oh,
yeah.
look at me," right? Like so that's weird for me
It's
is to
like
tell
finding
my
your
own
puzzle
story.
piece, right? It's like finding those puzzle pieces that just fits the indented areas of yours,
Yes.
right? I love
So
that.
right now, Tiffany and I, we are so in tune to each other that we tease each other and we say that we're thing one and thing two. We're interchangeable. You get both of us. We're going to banter. We're going to disagree. We're going to compromise. We're going to find what's right for the client.
Yeah,
But when we're at the client, we're a united front and completely interchangeable.
I
Like I
love
said,
that.
thing one, thing two.
So, what sets you apart from the competition? What can we learn here from you? And how do you create value? I guess is a better way of saying it for your
Yeah.
customers and to elevate your business.
So I think I just touched on it, right?
Oh, really? Is that
We really,
having senior people in?
yes.
Actually, I have to say the
So
thing that I love about hiring senior folks who with the expertise, they look at things intuitively, they already know, they bring it to the table, right? As
yeah,
opposed to someone who has to learn. And I'm nothing against those folks who are just coming in, but they have to learn and figure it out, right? And
Yeah.
so is
If
that
I have
something?
if I have a client that warrants us to bring somebody more junior in, we will, and we have done that. And I would be happy to do it again if we had a client that it made sense to do that. But
That's what I was just about to ask. Is that a strategy that you think could work for other
I, I think
industries
that
or
it can,
specialists?
I think that it can work.
Mhm.
It, look, I think that you pay for my gray hair, right?
I
There's a
love
war horse inside of here, and you're going to pay for that. I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, the downs. I've weathered it all. Personal, professional, it all intermingles, right? Like you learn from your mistakes. I triumph in the big uh-ohs and the oh-nos. That's generally how a client comes to us, is because of an uh-oh or an oh no. They stepped into something. Well, great. Now,
that.
how can we help get you through that? But I do think that you can build a business on relying on you yourself and your business partners as the experts, and then going from there.
I like that.
And I think it's okay to embrace um, not just your flaws, um, but to be okay saying the kudos of, like, I'm an expert. That was really a hard one for me to say. And it wasn't until I had actually a CFO who was talking to me, talking about me to a client of his. And he was like, no, she's not, she's, she's not saying what she is. She's an expert. She's an expert in HR. And I really only trust her to come in here and do that, because I wouldn't say that about myself. So that was weird.
Yeah,
But now I'll say it.
like
But
embrace it.
it took me years to acknowledge it out loud, to say, yeah, I'm the expert.
Tell me more about your business and even how, I mean, I loved how perfectly it worked out that it's Proud HR Consulting. I know there's a little story around that. Can you
There.
share that with us?
Yeah. So I'm incorporated by PHR Consulting Inc. And PHR is a little play on words. P for proud, or PHR is also a professional human resource certification. And so I thought that that would be a great way to just incorporate when I was looking at doing, California Corporation. And so I did. And then I just stayed very low on the radar with that. Um, because really, I never wanted my name on the door.
Mm.
And so when I went out to go on my own and I rebranded, it was Mary and Mary O'Hara Devereaux, and honestly, Josh Richmond, who is an IP uh, and trademark attorney.
Yeah.
And so he was the one who was like, Leann, you need to be careful about the PHR thing. And
As
then,
opposed to
because
the
of course,
certification. Yeah.
right, exactly. And then also Mary was like, it's not compelling. I don't know what it means. Like, you need to say proud. And I was like, I don't want my name on the door. And she was like, but it's not about your name. It's about, you're proud of your clients. You're
Yeah.
proud of your team. You're
You
proud of
just
the
happen
work
to
that
have a
you do.
fantastic name
You're
that worked with
proud of
it.
all this stuff, right? And so it was through her, um, it was through her conversation that I became okay with it. Again, it's embracing who
Who
you
you
are and what you are, right?
Yeah.
It's
But also, I love the message that Mary shared. Like
yes.
when you're choosing a name, it needs to make sense to the target audience and it needs to be compelling. Like, what is that? I mean, when I first started, I quickly was trying to put everything together and I did P. Madison Consulting. Who knows what they do? Like, what is that? But just like you, it worked out well because that's my initial, right? Paula Madison. And
Yeah.
then also worked in power marketing very effortlessly as well,
Yeah.
so yeah, completely. Yeah, yeah,
It it's funny the things that we do to ourselves, right?
yeah.
Like,
'Cause
if it's
well,
for a
you're pointing at
client,
everyone else though. You can teach everyone else because you're going through it. Sometimes we don't see ourselves, right?
that's exactly right. Like, I'm I can get a client through almost anything. But I will, doubt, waffle, second guess things that we do here. So
Well, let me ask you, like, what are some of the services that, because I hear HR consulting, right?
Yeah.
What does that cover exactly? Because I know that through the pandemic, you guys were magical, right? So what does that now cover for Proud HR consulting?
Yeah. So at the very core of who we are, we've always been all things human resource compliance. I have a fascination for law. My education is actually in administration of justice, because once upon a time I thought that I would do that side of the law, knowing that I never had the gumption to go through, become a lawyer. I didn't want to go to that much college. So I fell into human resources and really found a kindred spirit in it because it was all things law.
Mm.
And through labor law and employment law and understanding case study, I really focused in on the compliance of things, the day-to-day operations, and how to keep um, your capital, your human capital, your talent engaged, active, um, appreciated, paid, accordingly. And then also for the employer, how to keep them proactive instead of reactive, how to make sure that we understand and interpret the labor laws, how to keep them updated. So we do everything from A to Z. Of course, we do handbooks, right? Of course, we do benefits, but that's really not all that we do. And I think that when people think human resources, that's what they think. We do the hard things, we do the risk management, we do all the terminations. I would never let a client do a termination on their own. We
Well,
go in and
before
we
you
do the
say any more, can you tell me why would you call it risk management? Because it's just hiring an employee. Why would this be risk management for the company exactly?
Yeah, so I think that everything that we do when it's human based has a risk factor to it. You hire someone thinking that they're going to be a great fit and that their skill set is exactly what you need. And you spend a lot of time, effort, and energy not only recruiting them and hiring them and bringing them on board, but then also the on the job training pieces and getting them up and running. And so how do you mitigate the risk in a bad hire? So that's why I say risk management, right? Risk management. How do you terminate someone with the least amount of risk to the company? Is it for cause? Is it not for cause? Is it they resigned? Is it mutual? Um, is it we're exercising at will rights? It's all of those things. It's also performance management.
Mm.
It's their disciplinary action. What are we doing for documentation? It's all of that.
Yeah.
Even your handbook can be used against you.
Wow.
So if you're not walking your talk, if you're there's compliance stuff you have to have in there. Everybody knows Title VII, right? That's the Civil Rights Act. So we know that we have to have all the EEOC stuff in the handbook. That's mandated if you are going to have a handbook, because there's no law that says you have to have one. But if you're going to, you should make sure you have all these mandated things in there. But do you know what those really mean? And are you teaching your managers how to do that? Are you training your managers on the basics of HR 101?
Yeah.
That's all about mitigating risk.
Wow.
And then when you're not mitigating risk and something happens, then we're in crisis management.
So by the way, are you do is your company doing the training as well, by the way?
We do.
Okay.
So we do hiring, firing, benefits administration, 401k, coaching, counseling, advising, leadership skills and development, HR 101, disciplinary action, evaluations, 360s, employee surveys. We do all of that. And then we will do obviously training for our clients. And we really customize it because look, there's nothing cookie cutter about life. So there's really nothing cookie cutter about our clients. So we do everything for our clients based on who they are, what industry they're in, and we really customize the stuff that we do. And they have a lot of buy-in on it. So we'll be rolling out some HR 101 for a client that we have right now.
Oh, by the
That's
way, do you
into,
have any open seminars that you do for business owners to attend or not yet?
I haven't done that yet. And I find that I'm not sure that we will do something like that. We write a blog.
Okay,
We put that out on LinkedIn, and it's certainly on our website, which is proud-hr.com.
nice.
And you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find our team on LinkedIn. But I find, again, because I'm the person who doesn't like doing their own expense report, that I think trying to take on that monumental task would be, we would need to rely on somebody who has the expertise in doing that, perhaps someone like Paula, who can help us go live with webinars. Right? Like we would need to rely on someone who has the expertise to get us into that.
Yeah.
We certainly have the content and the data, but I would need to really lean on someone to help me get there, to shepherd us there. And I'm not
Well,
sure that we're there yet, but it is something that we've talked about.
well, let me ask you one final question to wrap up as we're rolling to the end, because I think this one is something that affects folks, whether they're starting a business, have a business, or they're just running a book of business.
Mhm.
Time management. Um, how do you get that work-life balance for yourself? Do you have any advice about folks struggling with time management?
I do. So I live and breathe by my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it does not exist. I live on one calendar.
Oh,
So personal, my dad is 96. And so we are very much still caring for him. He's in great shape. So again, we're totally blessed by that. But I have to manage all of his stuff, the estate. I have to manage all the banking, all the bills. I have to manage his, medical appointments. I manage our stuff, our personal stuff, just even date night. And then, of course, all of our client stuff. It's all on one calendar. I don't shuffle between two because I that would be overwhelming to
nightmare.
manage.
Yeah.
And so it's all about calendar invites, even if I'm just putting it on the calendar for me. If I have a project that I know is going to take several hours and maybe I need 2 to 6 blocks of time to get through that, whether they're 2 hours or 4 hours. I block all of that out. I make sure that I put deadlines and deliverables in my calendar. We also make sure that we put ticklers. So when I'm running a payroll for a client, I don't run payroll very often. Someone else on my team will do it. But if I'm running that payroll, I make sure that I put in, the deadline and then the preview. I stack those in reoccurring events kind of so that they're always on my calendar. And then I make sure that I set those notifications, the 15-minute or the 30-minute pop-up reminder. I had a pop-up for 2 o'clock yesterday and I was like, what? I thought I had no idea that I had a 2 o'clock and it was for a client. So thank goodness for that notification because without that pop-up, I'm sure I would have missed it.
Yeah, I typically like a pop-up as soon as I open my computer in the morning, and then that 10 minute just to kind of remind you, you
Right.
know. But I love that. That to me was gold right there because I do hear of people who have separate calendars. I'm like, but how? If you do that, are you thinking that you're going to get 48 hours to your day? I'm
Yeah.
not sure how, because there's just so much time, right? So you want to
Yeah.
see everything together. Do you think, as you were saying that, I thought it's very helpful because you can also see what you can't do as well and what you may need
Mhm.
to start delegating, or move to another day and be more realistic because your time is limited. I mean,
Time is limited. And I think that the beautiful thing about consulting is the end of business for us is midnight. Right? Like if I tell a client that I'll get it to you today, I'm not going to say that I'm going to get it to him by 5 or 6. I may be downstairs doing dinner and hanging out with my husband and my father, um, at 5, 6, and 7. And so my quiet time is email at night. And so that might be 7 to 10 at night.
Mm,
Or, maybe that's when I sit down and do that project.
mm,
And as long as I get it out by 11:59 a.m., I'm good, right?
yeah,
That was
yeah.
my end of
Yeah, you
business.
said end of day.
That's right. I said end of day. That's right. Um,
Love that.
I think it's also about being honest with your clients that, don't say yes if you can't do it. Hey, I really need this by Wednesday. I'm sorry, the earliest I can get that to you is by Thursday. Or if you're falling behind, hey, I know that I thought I was going to get this to you by Wednesday, but I need to push it out till Thursday. Are you good with that? Being honest with that is super important. I'd much rather do a mea culpa and I'm sorry, right? Like I'm sorry,
Yeah.
than completely missing the mark or ghosting them and going silent and then not sending it to them until 3, 4, 5 days later.
Mm,
And we've all done that, right?
mm.
Like that's a terrible, it's a sinking feeling.
Yeah.
It's terrible,
Well,
right?
what
So,
I hate about that one too is it's a tax that you end up paying against your other clients as well, because it
mhm,
takes so much out of you to not live to what you know that what your
right,
usual is, and
right.
now you're working with it just takes from your day that feeling,
It does.
so
And I still do it. Look, no one's perfect. And I think that that's the point of what this conversation is, right? Like we learn from our mistakes, we grow on them, we
every
learn,
day.
we move, and then we adapt and change, right? But we're not perfect and things do happen. And I'm telling you, our smartphones have made me stupid. I can't
Oh my God.
remember anything
Remember
anymore.
when we used to remember numbers, Leanne? Like just numbers. I knew all the account numbers, I
Yes.
mean, just everything, which I thought was phenomenal for your brain. Now look, I'm going to tell a little story. Yeah, LinkedIn, you're going to hear the story too. I had a bloody nose. I hadn't hydrated the whole day. Now my nose is bleeding. My friends like jump up, because we're in the living room. Everyone's like, oh my God, like, and I'm like, get me my phone. Wait, I'm like this, get me my phone. And I'm like, Google, how do you stop a bloody nose? And wait, everyone's standing there and they're like,
Yes,
really? We're right here. And
that's
one's
right.
a nurse, by the way. One's a nurse. I'm
We
standing right
we
here.
so rely on the electronics that we do, right? So I
Oh,
think that that's probably my last tip about time management is look, if you're an Outlook user, then embrace all things Microsoft. Get your team on Teams, get internal email out of email and put it in chat threads, set up your channels. If you're a virtual team, then set up work sessions, no agenda. Just sit and work like you are working in a cubicle across from each other for 2 hours. Just sit there and
I
work,
thought I did
right?
not know that was a thing because we've been doing that. And my teams across the world, by the way, we will
Mine
literally
too.
be on Zoom together,
Yep.
doing
And
work
just work.
session together.
Yep.
It's the most productive thing because now
Yes,
you're literally just asking each other questions. I
that's
mean,
right.
how often does your team do it? We do it like once a week.
Yeah, we do it. Well, we're blessed because we have clients that want us there. So, yay.
Yeah.
So, we'll meet at client sites. But if we're not, if it's a remote kind of a week or we have several days that are remote, we try to do it 2 or 3 times. Um, and even if it's just a check in call, because so we have Crisis Monday and then Fire Drill Friday. And so
Ooh.
we try not to book anything substantial on those days because everybody wants something done on Friday before the weekend. And
Mm,
then something disastrous happened over the weekend. So it becomes a crisis on Monday. So we make sure that those 2 days, those are our anchor days, and we are always connecting with each other. So
mm.
that's how we manage our time as well.
Yeah,
So,
we do it as an opener to the week. So like definitely
mhm,
Monday, just what's about to happen, and then Friday, just those two bookends I find to
yes,
be really, really helpful. But yeah, we really just started that thing where it would just really kind of happened. Like, hey, I know you guys are on a Zoom call discussing blah blah blah. Can I get on and just ask a question? And it literally just became something where well, can I
yep,
just stay? And then we're working on all different projects. But
right.
you're right, it is like a virtual cubicle, isn't it? And now I
It
can just,
is.
hey, Leanne, that client, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's just this. Oh, thank you. Done very
It's super
quickly instead of
easy.
all the email mambo back and
Right.
forth.
I actually wrote a blog on it, and I think we called it "Do a Daily," right?
Do a
Daily
daily.
work sessions.
Send
But
me
the
that
good
link.
thing
I'd
about
love to
that
share it with the
is you
folks.
you can have it's at proud-hr.com. There's a blog spot on proud-hr.com.
Daily.
But the beauty of that is if you have a team of 6 people and you're going to have a more in-depth conversation with a teammate, you can go into a breakout room and leave the 4 people still working while you pop into a conference room like you used to, right?
Love it. Love it.
And go ask those questions. So
And that's why you pay for the gray hair.
I did embrace my gray during COVID, right? Because no one could dye their hair
No
anymore.
one could dye their hair. You know,
Yeah.
it's listen, I got on an elevator and they were all masked up. And this woman just had the most beautiful silver. It was just shiny gray hair down to like past her shoulders. Everyone's just kind of staring. I'm like, I just had to say, we're just, it's not that you have a horn or anything. Your gray hair looks stunning. And she said the same thing. Like COVID, I just embraced it. And she's like,
Yeah.
I'm really loving it more than I thought. We're kind of trained, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
anyway, Miss Leann, thank you so much for being on the show. I know we went teensy bit over, as I wrap up, guys, again, please reach out to Leann. Get on, I'll drop the link to the blog on right after this so that you can check out that blog, sign up for the blog, prescribe to it so that you can see new things coming up. And of course, if you're looking for marketing, reach out and give me a shout. My continued mission, as always, is to introduce you to everyday experts and other business owners like Miss Leann Proud, so that you can up level your business. We are a hive mind after all, and we're not all expert and not all perfect at everything. So to be able to share all of these different thoughts, it is my honor to do that, to help you to up level and keep moving forward. We air every Thursday, 10 a.m. on LinkedIn Live. Remember, my header expands and becomes a screen. So you're just coming to my page. And again, thank you guys. I'd like to close the show with a quote today. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is a courage to continue that counts. And that's one's by Winston Churchill. Leann, thank you so much again for being on the show, my dear. Thank you, viewers. I so really appreciate you guys sharing and asking me questions when you see me at networking events. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone, and have an amazing rest of the day. Bye.
Thanks, Paula.